Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 170 and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph on Ravelry, Plurk, and Instagram. Today is Tuesday, August 4th, and it is a lovely sunny morning. I'm in my living room again and I'm looking out my front windows, and we had some crazy storms overnight, which honestly, we needed the rain. I think some people around here got some vicious hail. I don't believe I got hail here. I don't remember hearing it, but some really, really close thunder and lightning woke me up in the middle of the night last night. It was kind of nice to sleep with that though, because it had cooled off, so I had the windows open and the air conditioner off, and I like sleeping in rainstorms, so, and not outside in rainstorms. You know what I mean. Anyway, but this morning it's lovely and sunny and blue, and I am waiting for a phone call, just so you know, that I have to take if it comes in. So I will pause at that point if it happens while I'm recording. Hopefully it won't, though. I actually recorded this episode, I'm not sure how many times, yesterday, and kept getting hit with technical difficulties and or distractions. So I'm hoping for better luck today because I don't want to have to record this again. So let's get started. I want to say hello to Sue from New York and Robin from Arizona, both of whom introduced themselves in the welcome thread on the 90% knitting board since the last time I recorded. Now that I checked yesterday, so if anybody has introduced themselves since yesterday, I'll catch you on the next episode. But those were the two from that were up there as of yesterday morning when I was first trying to record. So welcome to you. Thank you for introducing yourselves, and thank you for watching. And just a note of housekeeping, actually. On the episode thread from last episode, 169, a couple people mentioned that they weren't able to bring up the episode on iTunes. It wasn't showing up for them. I've looked through everything on my end. Everything seems fine. When I bring iTunes up, it is showing up. One of those people mentioned that they deleted my podcast and then re-added it, and then it was there. So if you're having that problem, you might try that. I know I had to do that when I used to use iTunes for watching podcasts. I had to do that a couple of times with different podcasts. I don't know. I think it's just a glitch in their system or something. So I don't know. But the episode is up there, so just so you know. You can also always watch it on YouTube or directly from Podcast Garden. I'm not uploading the blip anymore. I can't remember if I mentioned this on the last episode, but you may have heard it on other episodes from other people. Blip is completely going out of business. They've been taken over by another company, so they're not going to be doing anything with podcasts at all coming up here in the next couple of weeks, I think. So no more blip. I'll be embedding the YouTube video on the blog. I was still doing blip just to use the blip video on the blog because it seemed to be a better quality than the YouTube video. So until I figure out, I know I can embed the Podcast Garden video version as well, or at least I'm supposed to be able to. I haven't been able to get that to work yet on my blog, and I'm not sure why. I'll keep working on it because I think that may actually be a better quality as well. I don't know. I'll keep at it. But so far, it's good. I'm going to just adjust. Okay, there we go. Felt like I was seeing all this stuff up here. Anyway. All right. I think that's all the housekeeping. Let's just get started and talk about the knitting. I'm looking at my show notes. They're down here. Since I'm not on my computer in my office, I used to be able to keep the podcast screen or the recording screen and my notes open on my big flat screen monitor. I can't do that out here, so bear with me as I stare at my notes. I have a finished object to show you. Yay! Socks. These are my Blueberry Margarita vanilla socks that were made from Turtle Pearl Yarns in her Soft Shell Toes yarn. Soft Shell Turtle Toes, which is an MCN base. And this was just a plain vanilla sock, worked cuff down. So we've got the cuff, got the stockinette part, did the heel flap, regular slip stitch heel flap, gusset, and then the foot and the toe. And you can see the one ended up being a little longer than the other in the cuff. That's just because I'm apparently not good at measuring sometimes. and I don't really care. It's only off by, it's less than a half an inch different. And when I'm wearing it, I'm not going to know the difference. Nobody else is going to see the difference, so it's all good. But these are off the needles now. I have another pair of socks to look forward to wearing whenever it gets chilly come this fall, so yay. I'm so excited about adding socks to my sock drawer since I've been wearing some really, really ratty, worn out socks, even though they have holes in them. It's just like, I don't care. I want to wear my hand knit socks. So it'll be nice to have some new pairs. Okay, as far as what I've been working on, the Afghan is still a work in progress. It's huge. Even bigger than it was last time you saw it. It was at 53 inches long last time. It's up to, yesterday it was up to 66. I did about 6 more rows on it this morning, which is a little over an inch itself. So it's at least at 67 inches, if not 67 and a half. Like that really matters. But here it is in all of its Afghani glory. It's way too big for me to hold up at this point, but I'll open it up. Doesn't see, I keep losing stitches off the needles though at this point too, so that's why I don't really want to mess with it too much. But here it is, and this is folded in half, so this is like half the width. This will definitely, I don't want to say definitely, it should be done by the next time I record, because I think the next time I record will be pretty close to when I'll be heading out to see her, to see my daughter in Charlotte, because that's 2 weeks from this Friday. Wow. I can't wait. But anyway, this is her birthday Afghan. So, and I knit this out of my Fiber Nymph Dye Works Cozy Base, which is a superwash worsted, superwash merino worsted. And the 5 colors I've been using are lime green, magenta, vivid violet, peacock blue, and this is a stripe of silver gray. So, I can hold it up a little closer. There you go. Oh, that's much better. So I love the colors. As I've said, I have absolutely adored working on this project. It has definitely been a project of love. I know she's going to love it. I'm to the point on it now, though, even though I'm enjoying working on it, that I'm like, okay, I'm ready for this to be done. And honestly, I could probably stop right where I'm at. Like, do a couple garter rows and call it quits at this length, because right now if I lay under it, like I did this yesterday as a trial, if I lay under it, covers me completely, like over my toes and up to my neck. But I'm short. I'm 5'4", and she is closer to 5'10", I do believe. 5'10" or 5'8", I can't remember now, but she's definitely taller than me, so those last 5 inches, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for me to keep going, and I can do it. It was funny because I knew I was getting so close to the end once I hit about 65 inches that I didn't work on it for a few days. It had been my every morning knitting, but I kind of slacked off knowing, oh, I've got plenty of time to finish it. Yeah, I need to just finish it so that I'm not scrambling at the very end. I'm drinking tea today. I don't often drink tea, but every once in a while I go through a phase where coffee suddenly has no appeal to me. I know, weird. And I start drinking tea, and that's what's been happening over the last couple of weeks. I've just slowly been drinking less and less coffee every day, to the point where like I pour a cup and it doesn't even get finished. So the last few mornings, I just haven't even bothered setting my coffee pot, because I usually set my coffee pot the night before, so it's brewing before I wake up in the morning. It's something good to wake up to. And I've just done coffee, and my tea, I've been doing tea, sorry. My tea of choice is pure peppermint tea, which isn't really tea because there's no tea in it, it's just peppermint. So it's an infusion, I guess, which is what Tilly from the Tilly Trout podcast said at one point. I'll take her word for that. But anyway, I usually buy Twinings, right? That's how it's pronounced. Pure peppermint. It's wonderful. It's a very soothing tea. It's very relaxing and calming in general. It's also great if your stomach isn't feeling good, which my stomach has been kind of acting up lately. I think it's just sort of stress related stuff, but it makes my stomach feel better. And it's always good, like if you have a sore throat or an upper respiratory thing, that mint just kind of helps loosen things up and soothe things. So thankfully I don't have that going on. But it's been nice for my tummy, and just it's been nice to have something calming to drink during the day, that warmth, you know. Anyway, okay, so there's my tea. I never get to talk about tea. All these other podcasters talk about their fabulous teas they're drinking, and I never have a chance to do that because I'm usually drinking either coffee or water whenever I'm podcasting. So, okay, let's see. What else have I worked on? Oh, I have another pair of socks, which you saw me starting them last time. And actually, you saw them a while ago because this is the pair of socks that Disa from Disa's Craftworks podcast, she and I were doing the same colorway. This is my Fiber Nymph Dye Works Bounce Base in the Baubles colorway. And I had sent her a skein and I had a skein, so we decided we were going to knit socks together. And we had chosen the Expanding Community Socks pattern, which is a toe-up pattern, and it's quite textured. And it was neat, but I'm very slow at knitting toe-up socks. I don't know what it is. They're just not my preferred way of knitting a sock. And then add in the patterning that it was not becoming intuitive to me at all. So it was slow going because I had to pay attention to the directions every time I was knitting on them. And so I wasn't getting very far, and she was really not that far along either. So she suggested maybe we rip them out and just do plain vanilla socks. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't going to argue that one. So this is my first one. I think I was to about, I can tell because there's a bump. I was to right about here the last time you saw it, so cuff to here. And then I went to the movies 2 Saturdays ago with my son. We went to see Ant-Man, very good movie. And I took my sock with me. I hardly ever knit at movies. Matter of fact, I think maybe I've only ever tried that once before and I never did very much. But for whatever reason, I was in a knitting mood and I wanted to take my sock. I thought, plain vanilla sock, how hard can it be? Well, as soon as I started within the first row, I dropped a stitch. And I knew I dropped a stitch, at least I was pretty sure. But there was absolutely nothing I could do about it at that point. So I just kept going. I thought, I'll pick it up later. You know, crochet hook, do that. Well, I ended up knitting from here down to about here during that movie. So I had a good 4 inches, 3-4 inches. There was no way I could pick up that drop stitch. So I ended up just sort of catching it and tying it off. Well, I held it with a stitch, like a closable stitch marker until the sock was done, and then I tied it off on the inside. So it's not going anywhere. In the meantime, I managed to increase by 2 other stitches. It's in some weird way. So when I got home, I did fix all those mistakes. I fixed that, and I fixed the drop stitch, and I decreased, you know, I knit enough to decrease those 2 odd stitches that somehow got added. And then I didn't work on it again until this past Saturday when Christopher and I went to see another movie. We went to see the Mission Impossible movie this past weekend, and that was also a good movie. And I knit from wherever I left off here down to here in that movie. And I made no mistakes whatsoever. So I guess maybe I was catching on. Once I got home, I realized, well, when I got home from the first movie, I realized that I had knit beyond the point where I would have put in waste yarn for an afterthought heel, which was my plan to do for these socks, because the cuff would have been, oh my gosh, over 6 inches. Yeah, it would have been like from here to here. That's probably a good 8 inches, if not a little bit more. And I did not want to have to make both socks 8 inches long on the cuff. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be a big deal, but I don't like wearing socks with cuffs that long, frankly. So what I ended up doing after the second movie, I measured it, and I decided I'm just going to do the toe here, which I did. And this sock now measures 12 7/8 inches long from toe to cuff. I know that's a weird length, but I didn't want to go to 13 inches because that seemed like bad luck. I'm weird that way sometimes, but I stopped at 12 7/8 inches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an authentic afterthought heel on these socks because I never got to put in waste yarn. So I'm going to have to YouTube how to do that. And if anybody has recommendations for a really good YouTube video, a tutorial on how to do the afterthought heel without waste yarn, like where you're actually snipping the yarn, I would be really appreciative if you pointed me to that. Otherwise, I'm sure I can figure it out. It makes me a little nervous, but I'm sure I can do it. But anyway, I'm going to do the second sock the same way. And I did actually sit and cast that on last night. So this is as far as I've gotten on the second one. Just have the cuff and a little bit of the ribbing and a little bit of the cuff. The stripes aren't identical. I knew they wouldn't be. This second one has a little bit more gold in the ribbing than the first one, but that's okay. I don't need my socks to match absolutely. So anyway, I guess I'm all set now. If we end up going to another movie this weekend, I can just take that second sock and work on it. And that's in my little Coggy TM patriotic bag. So, okay, so that was, oh, wait, I do have one more project that I've worked on. And this is in my Danita's sewing rack bag. This project I showed you last week, I had just sort of started it. This is the Nurmalintu shawl by, who's it by? Heidi Allender. And the yarn that I'm using is a loop bump that I spun and Navajo plied in the New Growth colorway. And I love the colors, and I love how it's knitting up. It's basically, it starts with garter stitch. Okay, boy, I'm all tangled here. Hang on. Okay, so it starts with garter stitch. This is the part you saw last week, last episode. So I went through the garter, and I wasn't up to the lace part yet. So I knit as far as I needed to be to get to the first lace section, which maybe if I hold, oh there, you can see it against the wall. That's the start of the lace section. I actually got to the lace section and I did about 6 rows of it, and I had to rip it out because I had fouled something up and my stitch count was off, and I was having trouble reading the lace. I'm usually pretty good at being able to read lace, but I think part of it is the fact that this yarn being hand spun, my hand spun, is not overly consistent, and so it's sort of thick and thin in places, and it was just making it really difficult to know what I might have done wrong. So I just tore back those 6 rows, got back to the garter stitch, and then started again. What I've realized is I can't work on this if I'm doing anything else. Like I can't have the TV on, I can't have podcasts on. I need to just sit and I just need to read the chart, because on this one there are no written instructions for the lace. You have to follow the chart. And it's not a difficult chart by any means. The wrong side rows are a little, it was a little confusing to me at first just because of the way it's written and the nature of the pattern, but I figured it out. Yeah, anyway, it's slow going at this point. Once I get through the lace part, I know it'll go because it's just garter stitch then until you get to the next lace. It's supposed to be garter lace, garter lace, garter lace. I'm probably not going to have enough yarn to do it the way it's written. I'm realizing that. Once I get through this first lace thing, I'm going to weigh how much yarn I've got left and try to figure out what to do. I would like to have 3 lace segments, and I would like to end on a lace segment, which is how it's written. I'm probably just going to have to tweak it and fudge it so that the garter sections are smaller in between the next 2 lace sections to have enough yarn. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not too concerned about it. It'll work out one way or another. I'm enjoying it. It's just not been an easy knit, and my brain power lately has not been really great for complex knitting. And honestly, it's embarrassing to even say this is complex knitting because it's not a complex lace chart. It's just I haven't had the brain energy to do it. So it's just where I'm at right now, and I know it'll be fine. But you know, the stockinette, plain stockinette sock, the vanilla sock, and the Afghan, which is, you know, a simple pattern, that's been awesome knitting for me. And I think what's going to be coming up next, I know I keep telling you about things I'm going to knit next and then I don't start them. At this point, remember that tank? It was the Sobble Sunset, I think is what it was called. It was a tank top, and I had the Miss Babs gradient, pink gradient that I was going to use for that. Yeah, I don't think that's going to get started anytime soon. We're nearing, like, we're in August already, okay? I will never finish that by the end of August, even if I started it now. I just don't think I can do that because I know I'm going to have to make modifications to the pattern. And I just, again, the brain power is just not there to do that kind of knitting. I need to be knitting simple things right now. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to pull out my mama vertebrae that has been languishing for months and months, because that is, I'm at the point where I'm just knitting those miles of stockinette, and that's why I kind of put it in hibernation, because I was so bored with the stockinette. And I was going to come up with my own sort of lace motif that I could put in the back just to give it some visual interest and give it some knitting interest. But actually, at this point in time, I think a plain stockinette back would be fabulous because I can knit on it and not have to think. And that is what I need to do right now. You know, I make no apology for that. We all go through different phases of knitting. Sometimes we want to knit all the fancy, intricate things, and sometimes we just need the plain garter stitch or stockinette because that's where we're at, and that is where I'm at right now. So it's all good. It's all knitting, and as long as it's enjoyable, that's what matters. So say I. All right, let's see. What else? Spinning. I haven't done as much spinning as I showed you last time, but I have spun a little bit. I had 3 bats hanging around that were basically practice bats from when I first got my drum carder. And they weren't perfect. I never put them in the shop or anything, but there were 3 green bats all made sort of with the same fibers. So I spun those each onto their own bobbin and then did a traditional 3-ply. And if I hold this up real close to the camera, it's going to look really, really light. If I hold it back, that's a much more accurate color. It's not perfect because, I mean, it was a bat and it was, like I said, they weren't perfect bats either, but it was fun. It was fun to spin from my own bats, and I've only got like 61 yards and it's probably about a worsted weight, so I have no idea what I'll actually do with it, but I spun it and it was fun to do. The other spinning I did, which I love and absolutely I'm so happy with, is this was some Leading Men Fiber Arts BFL. I picked this up at the 2014 SSK. This was the That Somewhere colorway. And if I'm not mistaken, Leading Men Fiber Arts did the fiber for the goodie bags in 2014. I did not get fiber in my goodie bag, but they had extras of the braids for sale, and I bought one. I think that's how that went. I mean, I know I bought it, but I think these were in the goodie bags if you got fiber in your goodie bag. I could be wrong, but I think that's how it was. So anyway, I just absolutely adored spinning this. It's spun beautifully, and the colors are so happy. Again, if I hold it back, you get a truer color. If I hold it close, I don't know why it's getting so bright. But anyway, just beautiful. How I spun this, I took the braid and I pulled 3 strips, so lengthwise. I stripped it into 3 segments. And I spun each of those, starting at the same end, on their own separate bobbins, with the intention of doing a traditional 3-ply. I'm in a traditional 3-ply kick right now. Don't know why, but I'm just going with it. And my hope was that each of those color segments would end up lining up. So it would be not quite a gradient because I knew there would be overlapping and some barber pulling, but I figured they would line up pretty well. Well, they didn't, because all 3 of those strips were completely different weights. They were not even whatsoever. I don't know how to get your strips even. Other than weighing them, I mean, I know obviously you can weigh them, but then that means peeling off a tiny strip off of a bigger one and adding it to a smaller one. I wasn't about to do that. So I just spun it, and it ended up mostly being this glorious barber pulled yarn. I love how it turned out. There's a couple places probably where like 2 of the plies are the same color and the 3rd is different. Some places all 3 plies are different. I don't care. I love it. This was one of the happiest fibers I have spun in a while. Just color-wise, it just made me really happy to spin. So I ended up with about 165 yards of, I would say it's probably a DK weight. I haven't been using my reps per inch tool, so I'm just guessing. And it's not been soaked yet, so I know it's going to poof up a little bit too. But that's the main skein. And then I had leftovers on 2 of the other skeins, or 2 of the other bobbins. The one bobbin had quite a bit, the other one not so much. So I ended up I did a Navajo ply with those, and I spliced them together when I came to the end of the one. So it's all one little skein with no knots. But this one, you can actually see the colors a little better, because their color segments were preserved more, being a Navajo ply. So aren't those awesome colors? It was just fabulous. I just loved spinning it. And it's funny because as is always the case when you're spinning, your spun fiber, the yarn always looks different than the braid, and the braid was much brighter than the finished yarn ended up being. It's much more muted. I would say this little Navajo plaid skein is a little truer to what the original braid looked like, but even still, it's more muted and it's fun. I love it. So I don't know what it'll become. It may become part of my hand spun Afghan that I have not worked on in a really long time. Ooh, maybe I'll start working on that again. That's pretty mindless knitting. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so this was my other spinning this week, and that's it. That's all I've spun. I was going to start spinning last night, but I was too tired and I wanted to just kind of chill and knit. I can't remember what I knit on last night. I did knit on something. I don't know. I cast on that sock. That's what I did. Okay, so that is the knitting and that is the spinning. Let's talk about the alphabet cal. We have gotten through the first 2 months. July is closed now, and I'm going to announce the winners for the July prizes here in a moment. But August is underway, and the letters for August are M through S. So your one required element to submit things for prizes in August is that your pattern name, as it appears on the Ravelry pattern page, must begin with one of the letters in the range of M through S. That's the only requirement. The yarn company name and the colorway name are optional. They do give you added points if they also fall in that range, and if you get all 3 of those starting with that letter range, then you get the bonus point. Okay, but yeah, so go ahead, get started. I haven't looked to see if anybody's posted anything yet, but the thread is open, the finished object thread. And I'm enjoying following the chatter in the regular cal thread too, so please continue to chatter away. I love it whenever you guys are talking about what you're going to be working on, the projects you're planning. Babette's over on my piano and she nearly fell off. Sorry. I don't think she's nearly amused about it as I was. She's glaring at me. So, anyway, yeah, so August is underway. August prizes, let me tell you what we have so far. First of all, we'll have the $10 gift certificate for patterns from Melinda Vermeer's pattern shop on Ravelry. She has been kind enough to donate that prize for every month of the knit along. So thank you again, Melinda. That's awesome. So that's still one prize. Another prize is one that I'm donating, and these are stitch markers. I've already showed these to you, but I'll show them again. From Heidi and Lana, which is actually a brick and mortar store in Sebring, Ohio, but she also has an Etsy shop for her stitch markers. And the set that I am donating, or I'm giving away as a prize, are these cute little red beaded stitch markers that will hopefully focus here in a moment. Hello. Come on, you know you want to focus. There we go. So the red beads on the little silver twist stitch markers. And I just love these stitch markers. They're so pretty and delicate looking. This is a small size that works up to a US 8 needle. So that will be one of the prizes. And then we will have a third prize. I can't tell you what it is yet because I believe someone is putting something in the mail to me as the third prize for this coming month. It hasn't arrived yet, so I don't want to mention what it is just in case there's a glitch with it or something. But as long as it arrives, I will show it to you next time. If it doesn't arrive by the next podcast, I will substitute a different prize for this month, and it will probably be some yarn from me. So those are the prizes as I know them to be right now for August. But let's talk about July. Okay, so we have 3 winners, which I did draw ahead of recording yesterday, and now I'm going to just announce them again today since I'm re-recording. The first prize for August, or for July, I'm sorry, was a skein of my Mega Base in the So Berry Limey colorway, and the winner of that was Deb Knits 2, and her winning object was a pair of her last minute knits that she put up. So Deb, congratulations. Please PM me when you see this and send me your mailing address so that I can get your yarn out to you. All right, the second prize is, again, a $10 gift certificate for patterns from Melinda Vermeer's shop. And the winner of that is Ange in the East. And her winning project was the Girlfriend Market Bag. She knits tons and tons of bags. I'm not even sure if they're all knit. Maybe some of them are crochet. I honestly can't remember now. And anyway, she has made so many bags in both June and July. It's amazing. So anyway, one of her bags was the winner for that. So, and whenever you hear this, please PM me and let me know that you won, and then I will pass your name on to Melinda, and she will gift you the $10 gift certificate, which I imagine might be like a coupon code or something, for her Ravelry pattern shop. And you can choose whatever patterns you would like. Okay, and lastly, our third prize, which I do not physically have here because it's being sent by the person who donated it, is from Donita's Sewing Rack. It's another lovely bag from her. I embedded a picture. I don't know if it was the last episode or the one prior. I'll try to remember to put it in here just so you can see it again. It's so cute. It's got it's a license plate type fabric. It's adorable. I love it. But she has donated that as a prize, and the winner for that project bag is Carrie. And Carrie, that is also your Ravelry name, so Keri. And her winning project was Grandma's Favorite Dishcloth. So Carrie, when you see this, please PM me on Ravelry. Let me know that you know you're the winner, and I will get you in touch with Donita, and she can get your bag out to you. So, alrighty. So anyway, thank you to everybody who took part in July. It's so much fun going through all those projects. I love it. I will say there were still some issues with some of the information that needed to be posted in the entry thread. I don't think we had any duplicate posts this time, like people putting more than one post up, because remember, you're just putting one post up, then you're editing it every time you have a project to add. Just remember, you have to have your project, the pattern name, as it appears on Ravelry, has to fall within the month's letter range. If that isn't accurate, that automatically disqualifies your whole project. Okay, and I hate to do that, but that's the rules. And the other issue was, what was the other issue? I made a note that I saw a couple times. Oh, just making sure you have all of the required info. Like if your pattern name works, great. You know, I know you've gotten that 1 point, but if you have written down that you got all 4 points and I can't deduce where you're getting that based on the information you have in your entry, I'm only giving you the 1 point, because I don't have time to go back to like your project page and check and see what yarn you used or what the color went. I can't do that. And I'd said that up front. I wasn't going to do that this time around. So if you don't have all the pertinent information in your post that's giving you points, you're not going to get those points. Sorry. So, but those were the only 2 issues I think we had this month. So, and I always, like in the August thread, you know, I have the first post, and then the second post in the thread I put up as an example post as to how to put your entries in. Now my information that I'm putting in for the projects I'm using for the example is mostly bogus, because I just need to be able to show you examples. So if you checked back to my project page, obviously like the dates wouldn't be correct and some of the yarn wouldn't be correct, but it's meant to be an example and show you how to do it. But if you have any questions at all on how to post, or if you question like if a certain pattern qualifies or whatever, please PM me. I'm happy to answer questions. So I want this to be fun, but I also don't want you to do work and then not get the points that you deserve if you've done the work. So, alrighty, let's see. What do I have? Oh, new things. I have some new things to show you. Last time I recorded, I think I mentioned that I had placed orders with a couple places overseas in the UK, and those items have arrived. The first one, this was from Brit Yarns, and I ordered 3 different skeins of West Yorkshire spinner sock yarn. I've been seeing this yarn on so many different podcasts, especially UK podcasts. I'm not sure if this is available through any shops in the United States, quite honestly. I've not looked. I knew Brit Yarns carried it, and so I ordered from her. But I just love it. I love self-patterning yarn, and this is very reminiscent of like Opal or Regia. Um, they're kind of that kind of self-patterning. But this is the Birds collection. These are all three from that. The one on this end is called Owl, the Owl colorway. The one in the middle is the it'll come to me, Bullfinch. And then the one on the end is the Blue Tit. So I can't wait to knit these up. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do first. I'm thinking I may do Owl, and I may make my son a pair of socks out of these, because these are good guy colors, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I love them. They're so pretty. So that was my first package that arrived from the UK. I love getting things by Royal Post. It makes me feel important. The other thing was a book called Yokes by Kate Davies. I'm sure most of you have heard of Kate Davies. She is an incredible designer. She has a fantastic blog, which I've followed for a long time. I don't follow it regularly, but I love going in every once in a while when I've got like spare time. I'll just go in and I'll read through her blog posts. They're always beautiful. The photography is gorgeous in them, and that was really the main reason I bought this book. Because number one, I don't really knit yoked sweaters. Matter of fact, I'm not sure if I've ever knit a yoked sweater, like a color work yoke. I don't think I have. They intimidate me, frankly. But I knew the photography in this book would be fabulous, because that is just trademark of Kate Davies. And she puts a lot of information in. I mean, she is so knowledgeable. She's become so knowledgeable. That's what she does about knitting in general, but especially about knitting historic information. And so there's a lot of historical information about yoked sweaters from Greenland and Norway. And then there's a chapter on the Bauhaus yoke. And then there's a chapter on Shetland. I have not had a chance to read very much of this at all yet. Oh, and then perspectives on the Lopapesa. I have no idea what that even is, unless it has to do with Lopi. Yeah, it's Icelandic, so maybe it does. I can't wait to read this, because I think it'll be very, very interesting. She's got a conversation with Meg Swanson in here. And then she's got a whole page of further reading and watching that you can do if you're interested in learning more. Like, and seriously, a whole page of references. Then she's got some design notes, like before you begin, how to make sure your pattern's going to fit you, which is quite helpful. Okay, and then it gets into the patterns. The first one is actually, I'm not doing an official review of this since I haven't really read it, but I mean, there is one poncho that I know of, like a poncho-ish type thing, and I believe the rest of them are sweaters, as far as I can remember. Most of them have color work. Some of them, the yoke detail is done in texture rather than color, which I think is interesting, because when I think of a yoked sweater like that, I tend to think more of color work, but this one, and I'm not sure how well you can really see the picture there. You can kind of see the texture in that. It's called Fintry. It's textured, and I think that's really a pretty way of adding yoke detail that isn't so standout. Like if you don't really want to have that, that's another way to do it. But the designs are just gorgeous. I mean, so many pretty colors. The yarns that she used. Again, I'm not going to go into tons of detail because I haven't really read the whole thing, but I just wanted to share it. I mean, this one is so beautiful. And she is just so darn cute, isn't she? She's adorable. So, and that's the foxglove sweater. And this one I think is really interesting because it's called Bluebells, and it has color work both on the yoke and then on the cuffs and the waistband. So that's sort of interesting. Yeah, and then there's one with beaded work. It's called Frost at Midnight. So this yoke is actually done, the details done in beading, which I think is really interesting. I don't do a whole lot of bead work in my knitting, but I thought that was really unique. So I guess I have just done a review. There's the last sweater in here. I'm not even sure why this is considered a yoked sweater because it does not at all look like a yoked sweater to me. I'm going to have to read and figure out why this qualifies. And it's very heavy duty. It's like a coat almost. And then there's, you know, different knitting technique information in the back, abbreviations, acknowledgments, the usual stuff you find in the back of a knitting book. Anyway, I will probably never knit something out of this book. I might, but I don't see myself doing it anytime soon. Again, that whole concentration thing. But I love the pictures. It's a beautiful book, and I would recommend it if you enjoy really good quality knitting books. It's a nice one to add to your library. Okay, I've got more things, new things. Honestly, the stress buying was bad for a period. It's done now. But it was bad there for a little bit. I received yarn that I was able to get from Undead Yarns. I've wanted to get some of Heidi's yarn for so long, and I had never gotten any. So I saw this in her shop. It's called, the colorway is Eye of Sauron. How could I not buy that? Aside from the fact that it's got these great oranges in it. I love orange. But yeah, Eye of Sauron. It's on her Witch base, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It's considered a sport weight at 274 yards. It seems a little thick to me to be, it's a thick sport. It seems like a heavy sport. I am not sure what I will ever knit up with it. I mean, I say that as if I'll never use it, and I will use it. That's not what I meant. I don't know right now what it will become. I don't think I'll use it as for socks because I don't tend to do super heavyweight socks. Like I'll do sport weight socks, but this is a heavier sport that I'm used to, so I don't know if I want to use it as socks. I may make some mittens out of it. I think this would make great mittens. Or cowl. I don't know. But anyway, I'm just happy to have some of Heidi's yarn finally. So thank you, Heidi. I love it. And then lastly, I believe lastly, I hit a Diabolical update. Diabolical, Rachel is one of my favorite dyers. I've known her for a long time. I've met her before. She's lovely, and her dyeing is fabulous. I have not purchased from her in a long time, though, so I was really excited to get what I got out of this update. And I got a skein of yarn, and I got a braid of fiber. The yarn is just crazy awesome. It's called Speckled Pink Orange. You know I'm in this pink phase right now, so, and I love orange anyway, so it was like, yes please, I would like that yarn now, thank you. It is on her Tenacious Tencel sock yarn base, which is 75% superwash merino, 15% nylon, 10% Tencel, which is a lovely blend because I'm not crazy about blends that have high quantities of Tencel in them, but that's a nice amount. So it's about 380 yards. So it's a heavy fingering weight, I would qualify it as. So anyway, I love that. And this probably will become socks at some point. And then the fiber. It's gorgeous. Look at this fiber. The name of it is called Very Starry, the colorway, which you can tell exactly what the inspiration was for that, just from the colors. And it's on 100% mixed BFL. I love mixed BFL. I love dyeing on mixed BFL, and I love buying other people's mixed BFL. Dana from Unwind, she used to do a lot of mixed BFL, and I can't tell you how much of it I've spun up because I loved it. I'm still in mourning over the fact that Dana is not dyeing fiber anymore. But I know I can dye it, and other people, such as Diabolical, are still dyeing it, and so I can still enjoy it. I don't know when I'll spin it. I want to like crack it out right now and spin it because it's so pretty. But I think it needs to marinate for a little while in my stash so I can just pet it and enjoy it. I don't know. So that's it. That's all of the new things. I don't think I have anything else coming. I finally, like, I was curtailing things there. And besides, last week was really kind of an expensive week, and I'll talk about that later. So I need to not be buying things. It's an expensive week just in other areas. The only other thing I wanted to mention in the 90% part was an audio podcast. I don't listen to a lot of audio podcasts, although I believe I've listened to this one before. I may have mentioned it before, but I really wanted to mention this episode of it. It's A Playful Day, the A Playful Day podcast, which is delightful, by the way. I enjoyed this so much. And it was an interview with Melanie Fallick. Which you may recognize that name because she has published several knitting books. She, I believe, was the editor of Interweave. Was she? I think so. At one point in time. And then most recently, she was an editor for, what's the book company? Oh my gosh. She actually had her own imprint in those books. Let me see if I can find it real quick here, just so that I'm not telling you the wrong information. Okay, my phone's going to totally just re-up this whole thing. I wrote this down as a last minute note because I only listened to it this morning, so it wasn't on my show notes from yesterday. Oh, heavens, I didn't. That's the wrong page. You know who Melanie Fallick is. I will put links to all of this in the show notes. I'm not going to take more time to try to look it up. Anyway, it was a really cool interview. They talked a lot about the creative process, especially, with women and the empowerment associated with that. And I'm sorry, there are road department trucks going down my road right now that are kind of loud. Sorry. Anyway, it was definitely an excellent interview, and I would highly recommend you listen to it. And a couple of the points that stuck out for me were the fact that so many times things that we see online, like in blogs or podcasts or magazines even, show the pretty side of things and how that can sort of be a detriment, because we're led to believe that if our knitting or our life does not seem to equate to the prettiness that we're seeing all these other people like bloggers share, then we're like, oh, well, my life isn't nearly as good. It can color how we view things, because a lot of people tend to not put out there the less pretty of themselves for others to see. I remember that being an issue I had with scrapbooking back when I was really heavy duty into scrapbooking. It was one of the reasons I actually stopped scrapbooking, to tell you the truth, because the scrapbooking world was full of all these beautiful layouts that people did of all their wonderful family times and vacations and even everyday stuff, but it always focused on the good and the happy and the pretty and the polished. And I found myself in my own scrapbooking journey almost kind of manufacturing a life that could add up to that. No matter what we would do, even if, like, okay, let's say take it as a family camping trip. Well, I would take these pictures that I could see in my brain, how I would put them on a page in a scrapbook, and how I would, do the journaling to emphasize the good part of that. Wherein the whole camping trip may have been really cruddy because the kids might have been unhappy, or somebody was not in a good mood, or was fighting, or or it rained the whole time and somebody got sick, and but you felt this need to document it in this wonderful memory kind of way, so that 20 years from now everybody can look back at the scrapbooks and say, oh, we had such a perfect life. And after a while I just had to stop, because I thought, I'm not really documenting my life. I'm documenting my life as I wish it was or as I would like other people to see it, but I'm not documenting my life as it really is. And that just didn't sit well with me. And that sort of resonated with me too with regard to the podcasting community. Some of the podcasts that I enjoy the most are the ones where people are real. And I'm not saying that there's people out there who are fake, per se. I'm just saying real in the sense that they don't always just focus on all the happy, lovely, beautiful, pretty everything. There's a fine line, and I've mentioned this a lot recently. There's a fine line between sharing, you know, the icky stuff that's going on in your life and oversharing. I've been trying to be really careful not to cross over that line. I've never had an issue with telling you guys when things aren't good in my life. I'm pretty clear about that. What I am more careful about is not sharing things that aren't really mine things to share. And I've said that recently. But I think it's really important to be able to share not just even personal things, because not everybody is comfortable with sharing a lot of their personal life in a podcast. And I get that. I'm not one of them. I'm one of those ones who like, I'll tell you everything. But even when it comes to like knitting or spinning or their crafting, a lot of times people focus on just what's going really well and they downplay troubles that they're having. And I remember when I was a really new podcaster, actually, someone who had been watching my podcast back at that beginning once emailed me and criticized me and told me I should never talk about something that went wrong because that is not what people want to hear. And I didn't know what to do with that because that's not me. One of the things, actually the thing that I value the most in life in general is honesty. I don't want to be lied to. And I make that pretty clear to anybody who is a significant person in my life. Please don't ever lie to me. I would rather be hurt by the truth than be lied to and then be hurt when I find out that you lied to me and still be hurt by that truth. You know what I mean? It's a double whammy. I try very hard to never lie to people. I mean, it's almost better to say nothing than to lie. And then you have the lies of omission, I guess. But you get what I'm saying. And I guess I translate that into my podcasting. I don't want to lie to you and tell you everything is fantastic. All my knitting projects are great. They're always going as planned. I have no trouble when I'm dying. Everything works out great. I'm not going to do that, So that was a part of that interview that I could really relate to. The other part was towards the end, they were talking about Melanie has now moved on from her job as an editor with the publishing company that is, it's STW or SWT or STC, or I'm sorry, it's just not there for me right now. Anyway, she's no longer editing for them, and what she was saying was, there's a lot of things in life that she wants to pursue. And, her time in the publishing world was wonderful, the writing of books. And she said, she's not saying that that'll never be a part of her life again, but she said there are other things that she wants to pursue and her tagline for this whole new venture in her life is, if not now, when? And I thought, that is so awesome, because that's something that I've been thinking about a lot in the last couple years of my life too, with all the changes that I've gone through and even things that I'm really dealing with right now. If I don't make choices that are going to be good for me in the future, if I keep things the same because they're safe, or because I'm afraid of the change, or I'm afraid somebody else won't like me if I change, what service is that doing to me as a person? And what I took away from that part, I could totally have been taking away from this something that she did not mean to imply. But what I took away from that part of the interview was just that, we have to look towards toward expanding our lives, no matter how old you are, no matter who you are, no matter what point you are in life. If you don't take chances now and you don't reach out and try new things, when are you going to do it? Do you want to live your life where you look back when you're 70 or 80 years old and say, wow, I wish I would have done whatever back then? I don't want to be that way. So that's something that's been on my mind a lot lately, because I'm facing some changes. I mean, everybody is all the time. And I'm not really going to go into that. But, it's just, it's a decision. So anyway, it was a really, really thought-provoking interview on that podcast, and I would highly recommend you watching it or listening to it. I will link to it in the show notes. Let's move on to 10%, where I talk about all manner of weird things going on in my life. Number one, my driveway is paved now. Yay! I'm so excited. If I didn't think it would give you seasickness or motion sickness, I would pick up my camera and show it out the door so you could actually see it, but I don't think it would do very well. I will try to post some pictures at the end of the podcast of the paving process and finished paved driveway and everything so you can see that. I know it's asphalt. It's probably not that exciting to you, but after living with a gravel driveway for 22 years, it is way exciting to me, let me tell you. And it's going to make this winter so much easier to deal with if we get snow. Like this year, we'll probably get nothing. But snow and ice, you cannot put salt on a gravel driveway because it not only melts the snow and ice, but it melts the permafrost layer underneath so that once it gets warm out, you have a bog. We don't want bogs in our driveway. So now I can use the snowblower. I can use salt. It can be fabulous. So anyway, that is done. I'm so thankful we got the crazy rain we got last night because my garden has been just so wilty and I've been too busy and too lazy to water it. So I did get my first red tomato though, and I've gotten a few zucchini. There's tons of hot peppers down there that I haven't even picked yet because I want to preserve them. Like I want to can them and I don't have time right now. So it's not going to hurt them to stay on the plants for a while. My one eggplant plant has a bloom on it, but it is not producing anything yet, and it doesn't look real healthy either, so I'm not holding out a whole lot of hope for the eggplants. I've never had much luck with eggplant. I just thought I'd give them a try. It's funny. I have 4 tomato plants. 3 of them are producing fruit. One is a huge, big, bushy plant, and it's got some blooms on it, not many, no fruit. It's like a dud. I've never had a tomato plant do that before. So weird. But anyway, that's the garden. What I'm reading. I finally finished that horribly, horribly depressing Sue Grafton novel, S's for Silence. It did not redeem itself at all, not even in the end. I was like, seriously? It's like the story wrapped up fine, but it was like, oh, that is 12 hours of my time that I listened to that book that I will never get back. And I need to take a break from her books, I think, for a while because I'm afraid to move on to T. I don't want it to be another depressing book. I need some happy stuff right now. Like I need some uplifting, happy things going on and listening to. And that book was just depressing me to no end. So I have been reading, well, I told you I was reading Jewels of the Sun by Nora Roberts. It's a book I've read a million times. I love it. I finished it and I decided to reread the whole series. So I'm now on Tears of the Moon. I just started that last night. I'm really not sure that I ever reread the second and third books, but I'm going to now. So they're light and fun. They're mild romance. They're not like, you know, bodice ripper romances or anything. So there's storyline. What else? I downloaded Dad is Fat by Jim Gaffigan. If you know Jim Gaffigan, he's a comedian. His stand-up is hilarious. I love it because it's funny. It's self-deprecating, but it's mostly clean. Like there's some risque kind of comments he'll make sometimes, but it's clean. It doesn't swear out the wazoo or anything, and I enjoy that. So I knew this book was out, so I downloaded it. I thought, oh, this will be awesome because he reads it. It'll kind of be like listening to stand-up. Well, it's not. The essays are really good and they're interesting, but what I realized soon into it, and maybe I would have realized this sooner if I would have read more of a synopsis of it, it's more geared, I think, towards an audience of people who have young children, like parents of young children, because that's a lot of what he's talking about, is his experience going from a non-parent to a parent of young children and how that's affected his life. And it's funny, but I think somebody who's in that position now could probably relate to it more than I can. I mean, I've been there, obviously, but that was a long time ago, so I'm not really in the parenting humor phase of life right now. So I don't know if I'll finish listening to it or not. In the meantime, I downloaded Let's Pretend That Didn't Happen by Jenny Lawson, who is the bloggess. If you're familiar with her blog, you probably know her sense of humor. She does swear a lot, so be warned if you're not into hearing the F word a lot, don't download this book. You won't enjoy it. It doesn't really bother me to hear it, but it's fine when I don't hear it too. Anyway, I have been enjoying this. It's a memoir. I think it's Let's Pretend That Didn't Happen, or Let's Pretend That Never Happened, or something like that. it's funny. It starts from her childhood and all these crazy experiences she had growing up in Texas, up through her adulthood. Some of the later chapters, like there was one on her miscarriages. And I'm thinking, okay, a chapter on miscarriages in a comedic kind of memoir. How are you going to do that? And it's not that she was making light of that situation at all. It was more her retelling of it and how she was able to get through it and everything. So just be warned, if that's like a trigger for bad things for you, the miscarriage, maybe you want to skip that chapter. And she also talks a lot about her anxiety issues, which that was something I could more sort of relate to. I mean, I deal with anxiety on a much lower level than she does, but I could still say, yeah, I can see where that would be an issue. So anyway, I've been enjoying that. I think I'm almost done. I don't think I have too much left in that book to listen to. As far as looking for really funny, happy things, I've also been rewatching a lot of Psych episodes. I think Psych is one of the funniest TV shows that was ever on. I know it's not on live anymore, but I'm watching it on Netflix, and I'm in season 6, which I thought I hadn't watched yet, but I actually have. So those are rewatching. I know I didn't watch like the last couple of seasons when it was on, so eventually I'll get to ones I've not seen. But I've been enjoying that. It's funny. And like I said earlier, I went to see both Ant-Man and Mission Impossible with Christopher over the last couple weekends. Ant-Man, I knew nothing about going into it. Christopher's like, hey, you want to go see Ant-Man? I'm like, sure. So I knew it was like a comic-based movie. Like that was what it came from. But that was all I really knew. And I wasn't expecting much from it. But oh my gosh, it was really good. It was so funny. I loved it. Yeah, it was wonderful. And I loved how it ended. It was definitely a good movie. I would definitely recommend that one. Mission Impossible 5, I think it was 5. I have never seen any of the Mission Impossible movies. I'm not a huge Tom Cruise fan. Even from like back before he was crazy. I was never a Top Gun. Yeah, I've seen it, but it never really did a lot for me. But yeah, we went to see, I'm like, I'd seen previews for it. I think I saw previews for it when we were at Ant-Man. And I thought, yeah, that looked good. I'm going to see that. It was good. It was really way better than I was expecting it to be, especially for the 5th movie in a, series of movies. I don't know. It was really, really good. While I may not be a huge Tom Cruise fan, I do like Jeremy Renner. And I liked his character for the most part in this movie. I'm also a big Alec Baldwin fan. I was not crazy about his character in this movie, although I liked it at the end. I like Alec Baldwin in like Hunt for Red October. Yum. I liked Alec Baldwin in that. I am an Alec Baldwin fan. But anyway, it was a good movie too. So it was tense though. And that's what makes me laugh. I'm knitting through Mission Impossible on my sock. Like, I'm really tense and, like, legitimately getting anxious in some of the scenes. And I made no knitting mistakes. And I'm watching Ant-Man, which was fun and not stress-inducing. And I screwed up how many times? Made no sense. So, anyway, okay, that is it for the 10% part. I do have shop news, and I believe I still have everything sitting right here to show you from yesterday, so I don't even have to pause to run and get it. So this is going to be sort of short. There is, however, there's going to be an update this coming Friday, which is August 7th? Yes, August 7th at noon Eastern. I felt really bad that I could not get another update up in July. It was just not possible. And one of the things that was holding me back was I keep talking about this fact that I have this new colorway I'm working on. I wanted to have that done, and I wanted to have that ready for the next update I did. And so I kept holding off on the next update because I have not had time to dye any more than the original prototype skeins that I dyed. It's a very time-consuming colorway to do. And so it's not going to be in this update. And I apologize. I'll quit talking about it and teasing you with it because I don't have it to show you. It's not going to be in this update, but it will be coming soon. I promise. I'm going to do my best to get it up as soon as I can. In the meantime, I do have stuff that I've dyed for a shop update that had never happened in July. So there's going to be one this Friday. It's going to be fairly smallish though. So let me show you what we've got here. First of all, on Bounce, there's going to be 2 skeins each of Fruit Loops and its darker cousin, Serial Killer, which you've seen both of those before. And Serial Killer is literally, it's the same colorway as this, but it's muted with grays. So Fruit Loops and Serial Killer, 2 skeins each. And then on my, sorry, I have to reach, on my Traveler Sport Weight base, there will be 2 skeins of Abalone and 2 skeins of Further Up and Further In. These are colors I know I've done on the color block sock sets, and I've done them in color block gradients. I'm not sure I've ever done them as self stripings before though. So I will definitely have mock-ups of these in the shop along with the regular yarn pictures so you can see how they'll stripe. But those are on Traveler, and again, 2 skeins each. There will also be Pie Day. There will be Pie Day, and there will be a second helping of pie. There will be 1 skein each on Bounce, and then there will be 2 skeins each on Bedazzled. Those will be in there. They're not reskeined yet, so I can't show them to you, but you know what they look like if you've seen them before. Pictures will be up. So that'll be in there. Then in the tonal category, there will be Frosted Blossoms. I did 2 skeins on my Elegance Lace Weight, and there will be 1 skein on Serenity 2.0, which is the Superwash BFL and Bamboo blend. I have the other skein of this because I'm planning to do something with it. I haven't yet, but the second one is going in the shop for you guys. So I wish they would focus. 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 You're not going to focus. Why are you no focus? There we go. I don't know why they like things horizontally more than vertically. So there will be that, and then also tonal wise there will be Total Eclipse, and there will be 2 in the Elegance Lace Weight and then 2 in the Serenity 2.0 BFL Bamboo. And I think it's so interesting to see how the different bases take the colors. I mean, the Lace Weight, which is Superwash Merino and Silk, takes the color so much more vibrantly than the BFL and Bamboo. It's a much more muted look. There may just be areas where there, you can see it better, but still, it's definitely brighter on the Elegance. Okay, in addition to those items, there will also be, if you've followed the shop for any length of time, you might remember me doing this before. Every once in a while, I go through my stash of my yarn. I call it my dyer's secret stash. It's usually like prototype skeins or things that I dyed up and goofed somehow, but I still thought I would knit with them, or just one-offs for whatever reason. I have my own hoarded stash of my own yarn because I think, oh, I'm going to knit with that and use it as samples. Well, then I never end up doing it. And after a while, it becomes pointless because like either I no longer carry the base, or I don't do that colorway anymore, or it was a one-off colorway. Anyway, there's going to be some things in the shop this coming week that are Dyer's secret stash items, and I will have them labeled that way so you'll know that that's what they are. Some of them will probably be discounted nicely just because they maybe are one-offs due to something being wrong with them or what have you. But it's a fun way to get things that you're not going to ever be able to get again. So if you like that kind of thing, like to be able to get some unique stuff that you know is not out there any other way, there you go. So be looking for those as well. Also, where is it? Oh, here it is. On Saturday, which was August 1st, I did put the August Minis of the Month up into the shop. And this is the August Minis of the Month set. And once I get it to focus, I will tell you about it. It's so nice to have autofocus and then have it not work, right? There we go. Okay, so the top one is the self-striping, and it's called Vintage Books. And my inspiration for that was, obviously, vintage, antique kind of books that had like the fabric covers on them. So that's what the light blue, the gold, and the silvery gray represents, is those fabric covers on vintage books. And then there's also a gray stripe in there, which represents the typeface, the print, the color of the print. The semi-solid is sort of an ecru-y color that I'm calling aged pages to represent the color of old pages in old books, because they do that yellowing, off-whiting thing. So vintage books and aged pages. Last I checked, there are still some available, so if you are still interested in the minis of the month for August, they're pre-orders. They'll ship out by the end of August. The pre-orders for July shipped out really close to the end of July. I believe they shipped Friday, so that was kind of last minute, but that was the best I could do last month. So anyway, I think that's everything. This is now an hour and 10 minutes, and I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm going to try to tack some pictures on there at the end of the driveway project. Not that that's all that exciting, but you'll get to see it. So anyway, that's everything. Please feel free to PM me on Ravelry if you have any questions. Look for show notes in the Ravelry group, 90% Knitting. Don't forget we have a Facebook page, Fiber Nymph Dye Works, and there's also a Fiber Nymph Dye Works group on Ravelry. Yeah, that's about it. So anyway, have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.